official term. But yeah, it's a environment where you can edit and run code so you can test stuff out. And so I have some examples I've made here today. I've been working on my portfolio website for a long time, and today I will show you guys how I made this aquarium. Hopefully, we'll get there. We'll see. I've also been working on 3D options where you can make 3D models upload onto the web, and then you can play with some post-processing effects. But this is a little complex. I think for our sakes, all we really need is a index page for your projects, and then some sort of carousel system so that you can show videos. And then it works nicely so that it's adaptive to screen size. It goes to mobile at 800, and we have some cool widgets like weather and mouse position. I have some essential things like contacted inquiries as well, but whatever you guys need, we can go through it honestly, and then we can talk about it afterwards. Are there any questions so far? Oh, the recording started. Thank you, David. Any questions so far? Um, all right, I think the silence means there's no questions. So let's go through that list now. So I think most of you guys are honestly not gonna try and start your own web projects off the bat. You guys have so much off on your kind of plate right now. So I think making a portfolio website is kind of key for you guys. And so I think a good resource to look at cool websites that you guys might like in the artist realm that I really like is fuse.qe. If you guys haven't looked at it already, I recommend going to this website, and then it might be a little hard to find because initially it doesn't show in this 3D part, but it says website in one of them. And if you click that, there's a lot of very artsy and I would say a little bit more postmodern websites that play a lot with graphics and just font and typographic treatments and different kind of layouts. But I think it's really fun to kind of go through this list. A lot of functional stuff and then a lot of not functional stuff as well. But yeah, this is one of my favorite resources personally. And then something else I recently discovered is Hipster, which is a little bit of a cringe name, but it's an amazing website actually. It's a bit more archival and not as experimental as the other one, so I think you'll find a bit more functional websites on this website. But a lot of nice typographic treatments on this one as well. Let's see. Did someone else come into the meeting? Natalie Unverified. Gotcha. But yeah, these two are my favorites. Something a little bit more technical is awards with three W's. These guys give out awards to nice websites, and it's been around for a long time, so people actually really like it as a resource because whatever you make as a graphic designer, you can upload onto here, and then people give it these awards. So for example, architecture, we can look at some nice architecture portfolios. They are a little bit more commercial than you'd expect, but on here you can actually find some pretty nice examples. Like Montreal Plumber is crazy. So some people upload stuff and it wins for like the meme sake, but it looks like it's French, French Canadian. But yeah, some of these are pretty nice, I'd say. It's a good resource because further down, there's a case study on here that I really like where there's a website I really like called Igloo Inc. And this is a good example of a very good use of 3JS, which I think a lot of you guys might be interested in if you guys want to show off 3D models on the web. Or it's a lot of functions you can really do now. It's been really built out. But yeah, this is for an NFT company, which is unfortunate, but they have the best websites because they have so much money to toss into these projects. But if you scroll down, yeah, you can look at these cool post-processing effects and textures on these 3D shapes. And I think something really cool was they have just basic functions that really are built out. And let's see here. Yeah, if you keep going down, like going to their LinkedIn, they have a particle system attached to this for some reason. But it's beautifully built out so it doesn't lag. It works on mobile. But this case study is broken down on awards of how they built it. this design studio shows how they did it. They previs this animation as well without textures. So yeah, there's a lot of previs you can do in the design realm as well, not just movies. You can do website previs as well. But yeah, I have a list of websites I like. If you guys haven't used Arena, I would definitely recommend trying it out. There is a designer called Blaze Smith I really like. And Arena is, I don't quite know how to explain it, but it's an alternative to Pinterest, I'd like to think. It is a repository for images, and people save and sort of link images through associations on this website. And so this guy named Blaze Smith is a graphic designer, and so he has a couple of these Arena channels. And so a couple of these I really look at a lot, but one of them I really like is called Distinct Web, where he has cool websites he curates. And so you can look at one of them here. Oh, this one's not available anymore. It's my favorite. Um, I think if I press this, yeah, I'll go to the website. Yeah, it's a website where ants crawl across the page, and you can look at this post where it rotates with your mouse, and it gives information on different types of endangered species and stuff like that. Pretty interesting website, and you can press on these things to go to specific pages on this carousel. Really trippy, but I really like experimental websites. I think it's a fun space, no matter what Liam says about the career path. I think there's a lot of fun things you can do with it. But yeah, I have more websites I really like down here. You can take a look at them in your free time. I think going through them might not be the most helpful because they're a little different from your portfolio websites, but you can see examples of people using MetaHumans for fashion, and accessories. So this is a accessory website for jewelry. They just sell like earrings and rings. What else is there? Forensic architecture is incredibly popular and famous at this point, but they break down, I believe, like accidents and crimes, political crimes, and like, yeah, a lot of these, I'm not quite sure exactly, but they have really cool case samples and 3D breakdowns of certain events that unfolded. I'm not quite sure, but it's really famous now. It's a really cool archive. A lot of things you can look at on there, and I would say the structure of it is really well built out. All right. I've been rambling for a while. Any questions so far? And I don't mind if any of you guys unmute and just talk. I feel like I am yelling at a wall, honestly. But yeah, if anyone, no one has any other questions, I'll keep going on. Yeah, I have some e-commerce websites down here, but I think some of the better examples you'll like, we can go through them for portfolio websites a little bit after this. So for portfolio website templates, these are the ones I recommend, honestly. And I think these are a little easier than the ones down here, but with the ones down here, you can get a little bit more specific. And I know a lot of you guys have tried Cargo, but some people seem to like it, some people seem to not like it. Mute. Hello, hello. Sorry. How long was I muted? Oh, 5 seconds. Okay, sorry. I don't know how that happened. But yeah, I would say these are a little easier than these. And if you don't like cargo, I would definitely try ReadyMag at this point. It's really built out with some cool interactive templates. It takes a little bit of time, I would say, to build out something that's really cool in ReadyMag, but it's a little different from cargo. So if you really hate it, you can test it out. So I think this is a website made in ReadyMag. As you can see, it's pretty cool. Uh, I think, let's see here. Yeah, I think it's your classic architecture portfolio where when you hover, it shows up. But yeah, there's a lot of templates on here, but at this point, nearly all of these websites have like pretty similar templates. They have like 50 templates and they're all like marginally different. I'd say just choose the one that you kind of feel like the UI is the easiest for you. But if not, I will definitely show you guys options for other things that might be easier. Because I think honestly, with this workshop, you guys would be able to make your own websites pretty easily. Because I don't know if Uksung is here. Yeah, Uksung was working on his portfolio website completely with AI, and it looked really nice. I think there was some little parts I could have fixed when it comes to maybe mobile, and there was one kind of thing that was floating around randomly, but I'd say for the most part it was pretty good. It was just the only bad part was the system that was set up in the structure. I'd say that I could have probably just organized the firm earlier on and they would have had an easier time. So that's kind of my goal for this workshop right now, is to give you guys an alternative method of making your website that might be a bit more specialized. And because a lot of these portfolio websites, they get used and it's like subconscious because I think what matters most is your work at the end of the day. But yeah, there is something nice to just being clever about having the format of your website fit the structure of your work and how to kind of show it best. But yeah, I think some things to stand out is looking at nicer type pairings and so looking at type foundries. I have spent more time, I think, on this type foundry list than anything else on this list, really. And so I've put together a list of type foundries I really like. So these guys make the best fonts in my opinion, I think, or at least this list of fonts. This list of foundries, I mean. And so if you can take a look at these, and they have really cool stylized ones. Sometimes they'll tell you what they use for in like corporate projects, sometimes they won't. Like for example, if you go here, I was going to use this for a project, and then I realized they use this for Battlefield, the game. And I was like, oh, it's kind of war related. I can't really use it for this nonprofit project. And so, yeah, they'll tell you most of the time whether it's used for certain things, but yeah, if not, it's pretty like just widely used. If you guys have never bought a font and used it before and licensed it, it's a little complex, I'd say, more so than you think. I would say for students, it's not a big deal. There were some landmark cases when I was in my undergrad where a couple students got sued for award-winning projects that use fonts from type foundries that they didn't pay for, and it was very negative press for these type foundries, and they stopped doing it. So I wouldn't worry too much, but if it's a commercial project, I would definitely recommend paying for it because the company you work for can probably get sued. But yeah, so let's just say you like Noctum. I think it's a really cool font, Daily News here. And we all love German black letter. So we love this kind of Gothic German font. And so, oh, if you look at the page, they'll usually have a type specimen where they show you how they use it and specific pairings and with the variable and axes and all the register heights and all that stuff. But that goes into a little bit of anatomy of type. So sooner or later they'll say you how to buy it. So there's a specimen PDF, which is always fun to download. I think it's always nice to look at these because they make it really nicely. And it shows you kind of like how they would use it in terms of sizing and all that. But let's see here. I think maybe the buy was at the top. Where was this? They made this a little complicated, maybe. Let's see, buy. Oh, interesting. Why is it so hard to find this? Let's go to Pangram then. Maybe this website you have to talk to them about licensing it. So Pangram is really easy. There's a lot of fonts I use here for fashion related stuff. People seem to love this for handwriting. Uh, it's really nice and elegant. So buy now, and then they'll tell you what kind of license you want for what needs you have. And so print license, you could use it for one computer. And so it's pretty broad, but it's just means, hey, you can use this for any poster or whatever. You just can only use it on one computer at a time. And so there's a web license though, and that's a little different where if you want to use this on a website, you have to pay for page views per month. And so you have to kind of plan around that a little bit. So honestly, for websites, I don't recommend buying a font. I would recommend going this open source route. But as a student, of course, it doesn't really matter. And I'm giving you guys fonts in this folder that are you should buy. And so I just like them and I use them too. So I just know that some people have been sued and it happens, but yeah, you don't have to worry about it. I do it all the time and nothing has happened to me. But these are amazing foundries, I'd say up here, and the ones down here are free. So Google Fonts has been really built out now, and they have a bunch of good fonts, and these are open source. All of them you can use them for anything for free. And it's really built out now to have pretty cool, unique fonts. So one of my favorite type designers on here is Sarah Cadigan Freed, and she makes some pretty cool jacquard like weave fonts and like some I forgot what these called wingdings type icon fonts. And I really like this one, Jacquard 24 Charted. And so you can find some really cool things here as well now that are open source because it's been built out for like the last decade now, really nicely. But yeah, I'd say for fonts, that's pretty much how it goes. I'll show you guys how to load them into your custom projects in your website in the folder structure later. But yeah, if you just want to use it for your own projects, for your PDFs and stuff like that, I'm just saying if you're just sending it out for work and like you're just applying to jobs with it, no one's gonna sue you for using a font. So I'd say go for it. Yeah, that's not. I'm not a lawyer, but yeah, go for it. Yeah, for the rest of it though, the rest of this document is good website resources so that if you wanted to learn more, you can now kind of go in. So W3 and Mozilla, these websites here are kind of like the baseline standard for, uh, how do I say? It's kind of like a rule book for the web that everyone abides by. And so it shows you guys kind of like the basic semantic rules for the web and HTML questions that you might have. Things for CSS as well. We'll get into this later when we start looking at the code a bit more. But right now, that's kind of all you need to know. These are the resources you might want to look at later if you want to learn on your own. But yeah, that is it for now. I think I'm interested in if you guys have websites you guys like. I think I asked people to start archiving websites you guys really thought were interesting and nicely done. If not, I'll pull some up and we can look at them. If not, yeah, we'll also dive in and ask people what you guys specifically are looking for in your portfolio website. Does that sound good? Nice. Nice. My gang in the studio answering without latency. But yeah, I feel like I did a lot of talking. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. But that's kind of the gist of it. There's a lot more I can go into about file types. Fonts come in various file types, and then also for websites, certain file types work better for online things. You guys might be interested in exporting not as a GIF or a video, but as an image sequence now, or a WebP image sequence. So there's a lot of different file types and things we can go through in structures, but yeah, it'd be nice to actually look at some portfolio websites so we can talk about certain things. If not, I'll pull some up. Does anyone want to give a link in the chat about any websites they like? So let's see here on this list. Do I have any other that's kind of adjacent to work? Liam Young. I actually think Liam has a dank website. Look at this node. I think this is something Yvonne wanted, where it was like this node-based, explorable kind of canvas where it goes beyond the screen of the monitor, and then also with the tags where you can choose specific hashtags or different what do you call them? Demographics for projects. Yeah, you can choose these different tags and you can see them show up and then the other ones will blur. So I think it's a cool system of showing projects if you have a lot of them. I think if you don't, you're going to want to probably go for something a little bit more traditional. So this is a studio I really like, and they make a bunch of real-time visual stuff with light. And it's like these like, cool light installations that they do in warehouses, but I believe like they do commercial projects. Like I think they did the John Wick movie lighting or whatever. But it was pretty cool. I love their website. This is actually a cargo collective website. This is just a cargo theme that they really just styled nicely and they took nice images with. And then they added embeds of YouTube videos. So I think this will be a big thing for you guys, adding embeds to your respective YouTube or Vimeo channels or ArtStation or whatever you guys might want, because that just links directly towards that account again. But it's a good way of hosting videos without you guys having to host it on your own. I'll show you guys an alternative today that's free, but I don't know how long it'll be available. I just started using it too. It's called Hugging Face, and it's not meant for this, so I think it's a little bit iffy, but it works perfectly right now because it's meant for large data sets. And so I'm uploading images and videos that are not that large respectively, so um, I think they're not noticing it right now. But it works perfectly fine. And you can use Dropbox, you can use anything really that's an image hosting website. I just prefer something that I can control it easier on, like Dropbox, where it's like a folder and you can delete things easily. But yeah, anyone have the portfolios? Okay, calligrapher dot, let's see here. I've had a bit of fun using my handwriting to make fonts. Oh, yeah, I love it. This is something I see a lot of people do. I see a lot of illustrators do this so that they can make like comic books with their fonts and have that like really nice tactile feeling of like that retro like comic feel of having everything hand drawn. But yeah, they don't want to like draw every letter individually. But I believe you can set it these days so that you can like set it so you can draw multiple versions of an A, and so it switches around between these things. And it's really nice if you're a little bit more illustrative. You guys might want this for your pitch deck. And then I think you can also use it for, I don't know, some sort of, I've seen a lot of game jams that I think this might be appropriate for, but yeah, I think this is really cool as a resource. I'd say fonts are half the graphic design game. It's choosing a nice pairing and then like, sizing them nicely. Really, that's all it takes to make something look nice. That's a little harder, easier said than done. But yeah, I think with a little bit of experience in graphic design and then looking at things you like and noting things like that you think look nice. It's always nice. Ooh, okay, so Casey posted this architecture of ecology website. So if you click on it, you go into the project. Now, does it have good bounds? Looks like you can click everywhere on the page. So I don't know quite how the bounds are working. But let's see here. So first project, wow, it goes to the same project every time. I see. Okay, it goes to the projects page if you just click inside. Oh, look at this with the parallax scroll. So you see these images. That's really cool. So it's really simple and subtle, but I think it's really well done because he doesn't really explain too much about each project either. It's just like, just take a look at these images, and then we have this kind of uh, hero kind of text area where you have the artist statement, and then you have a contact. I'm guessing, does this work? Let's see. Usually it opens like the crappy ones, it opens like the mail app on your computer, which is the most annoying thing ever. But it looks like it's not working right now. But I'll show you guys today how I get around that because everyone seems to hate that because no one uses the mail app on their computer. Um, and so that's a pretty cool website, I think, just because I think it over explaining is redundant sometimes, if especially if people know your work already. And so yeah, especially if you have articles written about you too. I think Alice Bucknell does this a lot, where she's just like, yeah, read the articles written about the project instead. And so yeah, I think this is a really cool approach that's interactive. Let's see here. Sewon Roy Kim. Whoa, look at this. So cool interactive effect in the beginning, a work and an about, teaching, Instagram, I'm guessing, or an IN. I'm not sure which one's which, but we'll see. This might be LinkedIn. In between, Studio SCI-ARC is a research-based design initiative working at the intersection of art, architecture, and technology. Wow. Exhibition list. Let's see how reactive it is. So this is always a fun test to just to see how websites work and where the breakpoints are. And so Similar to me, they use 800 as their mobile breakpoint. And they have some nice gridded effects where once you hover and lazy loads in. Wow, nice. It's beautiful. And so if you go to about, so I think this has a nice gridded feel where it's not overly done, right? Like none of the text is loud. Um, there's not too much imagery being used. I think a lot of it's just like clever use of grid and clever use of the gray and blacks. So I think key thing is that he never uses pure black and you can kind of guide your eyes around all the time using this like set of grays that kind of you make a nice gradient across the page. But yeah, color schemes are pretty interesting to look at too. I think this person manages to use this really nice black to white color scheme. Um, but yeah, I think this is a bit avant-garde for you guys. Maybe not for some of us, who knows? But yeah, I think for most of us, this might be a bit avant-garde. We'll see, but I love it. I think we'll revert back to this Venn diagram a bit later, but I like to emphasize this di Venn diagram a lot. I think this is true for most things, not just this, but especially in web design, I think it's pretty utilitarian. You have to choose two. You can't get it all. And most of the times it might be one. But yeah, I think having all three might be impossible, but that's like ideal situation. So in most cases, you might have to kind of compromise a bit when it comes to websites. So you'll see. You'll probably have to go with either or, but I think my goal is that I can subsidize this to kind of help you into this good and fast, and you're not that expensive route. Expensive mean your labor really, because you'll have to spend more time on your website. But yeah, these are all really cool websites. I think these are all really nice examples. If you want, we can look at one more here. I think this Uno website. Uno.app. Oh, they took it down? Dang. We'll take a look at this later as well. Yeah, if you want to take a look, this is the website I was working on. It was a card system so that if you hover it over, you can go to my project, which I didn't update yet. But yeah, I was working on this post-processing effect and I was really leaning into learning more about 3JS. And so 3JS is nice because it's just a kind of overall library to use 3D on the web. So think about it just like as a system that is really hard for an individual to make, like a shader loading system or like a renderer. Something like that would require a lot more engineering skill than anything. And so as you can see, you can put in animations and spline them to movable axes like this and have them actually rotate with weight painting and stuff like that. It's actually pretty cool what you can do. You can rotate the camera to look at the scene. And so you guys can really flush out a lot more interactive scenes in your web than you might think. I think this is really cool because game studios are trying to do this a lot more, where they show off a bit more of that experience. Because game studios are not as functional; they're not actually selling games on their website as much. Or if anything, it's like on Steam or like with like Xbox Game Pass or anything like that. And so they use this opportunity to make their website a little bit more experimental, and especially in the VFX space. But it depends. I'd say some are a bit more technical and production based, so they don't really care about this. But stuff like maybe Frame Store. I think Framestore is a pretty cool website where it has like this, yeah, like it's pretty crazy. It has a loading screen. I doubt they'll have like a 3D scene, but I think for certain applications it could be cool. I was using this for like showing people's medical 3D medical stuff so that it shows like a simulation of like blood pumping through like their heart ventricle or whatever before. And it was really hard to make actually, but it was pretty cool, I think, at the end of the day. But yeah, there's a lot of examples on here you can look at, and I'll show you guys how to kind of harness this to use AI to start making cool things with these examples. But this examples list goes down real far. Yeah, there's instancing with people, with animations. There's simulations with gravity and what is it not soft body but hard body simulations. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff you can do on here. Let's see, any other websites we can take a look at. I think some more practical ones. Let's see here. I think Ash Thorpe. Everyone loves Ash Thorpe here. We have a lot of video-based work in our program, and it's a lot of video VFX and 3D work. And so I think Ash Thorpe is a perfect example of making cool renders and having a simple system that showcases it. So most often, the rule of thumb is make your work look good because then your website will look better because that's just the whole. I tell people often that more so than the website, taking good photos is a better indicator of how good their work will be. And so I think it's true for VFX as well. If your work is kind of nicely rendered out with After Effects with these kind of parameters in mind, we have a very horizontal frame here that will have an image, placeholder image, and then when you hover over it, it plays a GIF. So stuff like that. So you need to start exporting these assets so that it fits the website nicely instead of just kind of placeholdering them in because sometimes it might look really bad compared to spending a little bit of time curating it and it looks really nice. So Ashthorpe, I think, is a good example of something that looks really great and simple relatively. I think it takes a good amount of work to have these smooth transitions everywhere, but it's relatively easy. And then it has a bit of like this nice sort of narrative-oriented website feel where you can kind of look at it more like a story before you go into it. And then it's just mostly images that explain the projects and then some credits. And so, yeah, I think his work is pretty self-explanatory now. We've seen it so many times. Yeah, I think that goes it for most websites. We'll look at one more just because this was recommended to me by someone in the workshop right now. But yeah, this node-based system of showing work, if you do have a lot of it, is pretty cool where you can kind of showcase a bit more technical ability. I think you might want this kind of website if you're going to try and want to do something more technical, honestly. I don't think there is a point to being so invested in this if you're not trying to do something or showcase that you're like a technical person. But yeah, they use this cool system where they have cards and this horizontal scroll that shows how far you've gone into the project. And I'm sure it's adaptive to how long the actual project is. And so, yeah, we broke it down and it's pretty cool. You can click on this tag similar to Liam and it organizes in a nicely organized grid with everything behind it. And you can click on it again to show this node chain of images that are associated with the project. And so, yeah, if you go into the about, I like how simple it is, honestly. It's just like this centered, large, nicely nice font. It's readable. It's just, just this sans serif font. But then they have like a nice sizing where at the bottom it shows like who the founder is and who the part of the team is. So I think some sort of these details where because their homepage is so complex, paring down and making things simple in other parts, I think makes it a little nice and easy and accessible. Like their index is really nice and easy. It's not that complex. But yeah, I think these are some examples of some really creative websites that are very successful. Any questions so far? A quick question. Who is planning on using Cargo or a template website for their website um, at the end of the year? Because I'm assuming everyone kind of wants a portfolio by the end of the year. I think I was talking to Truman and he was like, I'm just putting everything on ArtStation, so that's fine. But I think it's kind of nice because it's relatively easy to make a website. You're using Cargo ArtStation. Okay, yeah. So for most people, I would recommend Cargo. So I don't remember if I have a Squarespace account still attached to my website or if I have a Squarespace account. Let me just check. Uh, Let me go back. So if I remember correctly, never mind. So I tested this a lot on Cargo, but I have an Adobe portfolio. No, that's fine. I think a lot of graphic designers also use an Adobe portfolio, but the more and more I think they go on into their career. But I do know a lot of people that get so many views on their projects that they just kind of leave it up because it like kind of went viral in a sense. And that's always good for work because I know some people that do peruse Adobe Portfolio and these kind of I forget the other ones really. There's a couple for graphic design, but I'm sure there's a couple for illustration as well. But yeah, these non-website portfolio sources where they kind of consolidate everyone's portfolios onto one website. I think they're great. I think kind of redundancy is also good too. So having both is also great as well. But yeah, I'd recommend Cargo, honestly, just because it's easy to kind of change up and make really nice because they have really good templates already. But you can take out the things you don't want and then add also functions that are really necessary that are really nice. Um, and so, yeah, I'll go into that a little bit later, but let me just see here if I have a cargo site actually. I don't think I do. Let me see, login. Oh, maybe I do. Maybe I don't. Uh, okay, I'm not gonna troubleshoot this right now. So yeah, cargo, I've used it with Oren recently, and oh. No way, they give out free cargo codes here? Oh, I forgot. I really did this too. Yeah, so if you guys want like a free cargo code, so like you don't have to pay for $20 a month or whatever it is, I think it's worth it because you do forget about it. And I end up doing the yearly one, which is like a little bit cheaper than the monthly, and then it hits you with like a 200, $300 bill randomly, and you're like, what the f. So yeah, it is kind of nice to use this code initially, just so you can test it. If you don't like it as well, you can not pay for it. But yeah, Cargo has great templates. Let me go through some that I like. Let's see here. Cargo templates. Let's see. I think some of them are a little impractical, but I remember I liked this one. I think this one is a little impractical because it's so small. It's a bit more graphic. I think I remember this one is a lot. This one's widely used. I also use this one. This Untitled is pretty popular. Oh yeah, this one's really popular, and this one's really popular. All right. So as you can see from these wireframes, it's just like a pretty small number of projects for these. So I like that's kind of why I like it. I think this one is a bit extreme. Maybe not this one. But yeah, these you can just fit like 4 or 5 projects on these, and they look kind of nice and it's self-sufficient. Whereas I think some examples here, you might need a lot of images and it might get a little confusing. So there are sort of like these templates that are meant for smaller size, smaller scale projects. But yeah, like this is like this double scroll where it scrolls independently. I think this is super fun where it's not overly complex and you can have 2 different groups or not if you want. You just take this out if you don't want it. But the thing is like, oh, this might be a little bit boring where you have your name down here, you have index and information. So we can really go into this to change up this navigation bar to be your own thing. Because for me, I have my own logo because I really like it, stuff like that. I have my buttons. I had some crazy options here because I was just testing them out. Like this button, when you hover over it, it has like this trippy holographic fadeaway. And so yeah, you can like add these small things and tweak your website to be a bit more specified on cargo. So that's why I recommend it really a lot more than the other ones, because I know you can do that a lot easier. And the best part is now you can ask AI for help. So you can just take the code that Cargo gives you and be like, hey, this is Cargo, give it context, and then be like, hey, for my navigation, it says name, index. So this is the index of all the projects that they have. And then there's like an information page of your artist statement, education, yada, yada, yada. And then, like Alice said, maybe your CV, if you really want up here, you can just have it stapled, your resume. And then stuff like that, where if you want, you can change it up to be a bit more specific. I want my stuff here to be interactive so that if you go through it, you can see more images of my work as you like hover over words and associated words like pop up, projects of that nature. But yeah, stuff like that I think would be really cool to see. I think this is actually a really cool example of a website, but tweaking it slightly so that it features a bit more video and horizontal work. So like this project is a little bit too thin for I think our purposes. What we want, I think, is for it to open up nearly all the way. or all the way fully, and then to have like an embed of your YouTube video or your show reel or whatever it is. And also, yeah, if you guys do have like a show reel that's prominent and that's like a big part of your work, we can just use that as like a header show reel. But yeah, planning around this kind of stuff to the content that you guys have is key, I think. It's hard to kind of have a base template fit all. It really does depend on what kind of work you have. And even within the same discipline, I think, of like if you even if you have the same job title, I think it does help to think about what really your work embodies and how to showcase it really. Especially because if like a show reel is strong, but the individual exposition of each project is kind of weak, you can plan around that. Stuff like that, I think is like very strategic and kind of help explain your body of work a bit better. But yeah, let's see here. Oh, promo code. That is the promo code. I'm gonna just ask her, I think, for later, because I might just want to use it for certain client work. But yeah, that is pretty cool. I would bring up more websites, but let's see here. I don't know if this is appropriate. This is Shinan's website. We can look at that later. But yeah, I think something simple and effective is Alexi's website, where you can look at it. It has a nice header video GIF that plays. As to whether this is a GIF or a video, I'll have to learn later. But as you can see, I can go in and inspect it. So it's a video. Nice. As you can see, there's the source. So this is a nice way of showing like a teaser before you have the actual video down here that's like very high res. And he does it in a way so that it's mobile friendly because showing the actual full video up here would be a little bit strong and not having something animated might be a little bit too boring. So it kind of forces you to also explore the page and be like, oh, what's down here? Because this is kind of like a teaser of what's down. But yeah, I think it's a good structure of like teaser, title, explanation, which is pretty short, and then the actual high-res video, and then small stills from the actual video, and then a footer so that when you do go all the way down here, you just are always reminded, hey, this is the contact, and this is like what is kind of the important thing. And you can also have it locate back to the homepage as well if you want. But yeah, let's see. The about is also pretty simple. So I think simplicity is key just because we don't have too much time to invest in making like a crazy website for most of us. But yeah, he also has a pretty cool initial homepage scroll effect to showcase his projects with like this companies he's worked with, and then like a fadeaway, and then some text transitions as the video changes. So yeah, making this kind of stuff is pretty easy. It's relatively easy without AI, and then it's really easy with AI. So um, I think all this stuff is really accessible. I think just looking at good examples of, like this is the kind of work I do make. I think this is the format that I'll show it the best. But most importantly, I think just take a good look at it, what works out there. People have websites that work that get a lot of jobs, so just look at people's websites you guys like, that you admire, and try to embody it really. That's kind of like a good advice I'd give out for websites. It's hard to really think about UI from scratch, and UI is one of those things where it's like can't really patent it easily. It's like you didn't invent the grid really, it's just like did you invent the format of this? I'm sure someone in the 70s made a book like this somewhere. um, and so yeah, it's like one of these things where you don't have to feel bad about getting inspired by UI too much. Your body of work will kind of showcase itself differently. But I would say, yeah, take a look at these templates. I can go around and help you guys, but today's kind of focus and the rest of the workshop is going to be on this template I made for you guys. So yeah, we can go into that, but for now we can take a short break unless people have more websites to look at. I would actually love a little bit more if you guys have a couple more personal examples. Oh, it's the David Haidon portfolio. Oh, you gotta double check these links, David. I'm just kidding. It happens. These Adobe portfolio links are crazy. Oh, Trey's portfolio. All right. First, test the modularity. 800 breakpoint. Nice. iPad difficulty. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna do this right now. Um, but yeah, I think this is a good example of pretty similar to what we saw in Cargo, but very different, right? He really specialized it. There is a static element navigation on the left, and then a scrollable side where he shows multiple projects. And it's very simple. It goes straight to the off to the bat, like his statement of who he is and what he does. Um, I think maybe you can include a contact area, like email earlier, but it's down here. I think if I did full size, I'll probably see it. Yeah, it's fine. So it's a little hard to plan for all these things, but it doesn't really matter just because at the end of the day, if they're on your website and they really like your work, they'll find a way to contact you. That kind of ease of access is like one of these things where if you have like thousands of people visiting and it's like it shaves off the kind of like user use cases that are like negative. But yeah, in most cases it's fine. So yeah, I think Trace is great and that it's simple and it makes use of that cargo layout. I think we looked at it actually, right? If I remember correctly. I think it was no, I forget, but yeah, I think I used something similar as well initially. I know a lot of people that use this format. I think NoNoTac's website was pretty darn similar in that they could scroll, but this scrolls with this. I kind of like how this scrolls independently because this is so much shorter than the project side. And so let's go into the project. Nice, yeah. It just is a close. It doesn't open another page, but let's see, can we go back? I see. So this is something I've been addressing is like some people just like pressing the back button, especially on mobile. So this idea of the card opening, which is honestly has been a really big trend recently, but really expensive websites manage to have it so that this card opens, so that's seamless. As you can see, nothing reloads on the website. It just opens the card of the project. So yeah, really expensive websites have been making it so that it'll now say the project yada yada renewal at the end, and you can now press back, and then it'll go back to the home menu. Because on mobile, most people um, either do the back where they swipe left from left to the right to go back, or press the back arrow to go back. But yeah, if you have a close button at the top, it fixes most things, so it's not a big deal. And you guys are not expensive studios, so it's fine. I don't expect this out of anyone here, don't worry. But it's stuff like that where it's like, hey, if you guys did want a slightly more custom experience, you guys really could start thinking about that. Because yeah, these are the use cases I start really thinking about. But most of the time, it's like, hey, like what? I just want to make it look nice and showcase my work really. And yeah, Trey's is nice. You can just look through a slideshow of his work like this if you want. Ooh. We'll see about that. I think it might be one image for this. Oh no, it might be it just might have been loading a bit more. But yeah, I mean it happened. Nothing is perfect. Even the website template I'm showing you today, it's not fully robust to the point where every use case is solved. Oh, this is nice. It scrolls you down to the project instead of like actually like opening it up on a new page. So it's just like a nice animation. So it kind of shows like it's scrolling up and down depending on which direction you go. But yeah, I think this is great stuff. Let's see here. David Haidon, or one more before we take a break, I think. I need to drink some water. All right, Studio Materials and Methods B. This is what I call the artist website. Like this is what a lot of professors in my university would make their websites look like. And they were like fine artists that like did gallery shows. And then they would just have like a CV with like 5 pages of gallery shows on it though. It's like it would be insane. I see. Yeah. Very image based, very simple though in UI. Everyone knows how to use websites like this. I see a lot of people doing photography websites like this mostly back in the day. But yeah, this is like the typical fine artist portfolio that I see a lot of. Oh, nice video loader. I like how it's not a YouTube embed personally. I think there's something nice about it. You got it working nicely. And yeah, it works. I think it just works. I think simple is good. It works for mobile. I think the only thing is something that would elevate this, that would make it really nice, is just choosing the right font. I think the font choice is a little fugly, if you ask me. But it's not terrible either. It's just also you're not a graphic designer, so I don't blame you. But yeah, I think choosing a little bit of nicer fonts and then organizing it on the grid nicer, like so that it's like maybe left oriented for the text, um, would be a little bit nicer. But yeah, that's about it. I think it's great for just like a portfolio because it's quick. I think it fits in this Venn diagram of fast, cheap, and wait, no, what am I thinking of? It's cheap and it's good. It's cheap and it's fast. It's cheap and it's fast. But it fits. It's good. I think it's what you expect, I think, out of most image-based portfolios that don't want to have too much writing. It's pretty similar for most templates like this, even on Cargo. But yeah, I think that's great. Thank you, David, for that. I didn't mean to call your font choices fugly. It's actually great. I forgot what the term is. God, it's what is that font name? It's so popular actually. Um, I'm so bad with art history these days, contemporary art history. But there's a famous font. I'll send it over to you guys later. But it's this, and I just personally am a terrible graphic designer. That's why I can't make you I can't make use of it. But everyone seems to like it, and a lot of cafes use this font actually. Um, but anyways, yeah, that is kind of it for the initial portfolio part. I think it's hard to kind of give you guys a cursory other than that. I'll show you guys how to embed YouTube videos like this if you guys need. It's really easy. I have one YouTube video I have here. Oh, it got so embarrassing. So embarrassing, actually. But I have one video called I Dream of the 90s. And so if you press share here, it'll give you an embed link. And as you can see here, it gives you this iframe. And what you do is just you take this iframe and you put it into that cargo HTML link, and it just shows this video. And then you can change up the width and height to be appropriate to however you want. But if not, you can also give it a class. And I remember you can give iframe procedural stuff so that for mobile, it's a different size. And for some other stuff, it's a different size as well. But yeah, that's kind of how you embed stuff from YouTube and Vimeo. It's not too hard, and this is how most people start uploading high-res videos because it's a lot easier to host your videos on here, and it's free. So yeah, that's kind of it for now. We'll go into this other stuff later, but I actually have a practice template. I think we'll start with let's see here. I have four things open, so it's a little dank. Ooh, practice. All right, so yeah, I have this folder called practice that I gave out, and we'll start with this. And it just says practice in the corner. It has nothing. So we'll start with this just to kind of give everyone a base of what we're looking at, and how to use VS Code. And then soon we can look at the actual template, which contains pretty much everything you guys would want in your portfolio website. A nice loading initial sequence of images where it shows the projects that you guys have. You can add more here, but right now I just have three because I just didn't want to export and make these image sequences. But yeah, it switches to mobile at 800 nicely. We have these widgets which have nice updating real-time information like the weather in LA, the time in LA, and where we're at right now. We have an index of works. Oh my goodness, I'm so embarrassed. Okay. Yeah, we have an index of works that when you hover shows an image on the right, and it always kind of aligns to this line right here, no matter what. And so yeah, I have this effect right now, which I told myself I would take out, but I kind of just ran out of time, so I left it in. But yeah, it's this human person effect. If you guys remember human person from back earlier, I think they took it off their website actually. I went to go look at it and it was gone. Even they admitted, I think it was like useless. Yeah, they took it off. I liked it a lot personally. But I managed to recreate it. I still like their website. If you click on it, it creates these doodles where it floats away. So I think it's real cute. But yeah, there's these transition effects between images, and then there's different images or different information types within a within the grid. What am I thinking of? within a, not a form, a table within a table. So it's similar to how you would set up like an Excel sheet, really. But yeah, sometimes tables are really useful for information. These are used a lot in web stuff for showcasing information in menus, or whether you want, I don't know what an example would be here, but yeah, if you look at any website like Amazon, they use a bunch of tables. Oof, I got a side in for everything. But yeah, it has an about me page that you guys can really edit, and a working contact page. So right now I have it set up so that hello. So instead of when you submit it opening the mail app or them having to use your email, you can set it so it sends directly to your email. Form submitted successfully. So now if you go to my email, it should be there. So if you go to Eric Chu Design, so I'll have to change the API. Hello. So I'll have to change the API key for each one of you guys, or else it'll just all go to my email, which is not a big deal because I think it cancels it if too many come in at one time, but from like you can like set it so it only comes in from one source. But yeah, that's kind of it for now for basic functions. But yeah, with that, I'll give you guys an intro on how I started using AI to really start making complex functions. Like this game of life. If you guys are all a fan of Conway, or if you guys were part of that game jam that we were talking about, where we are really getting ambitious about the mechanics of things chasing things and growing and regenerating, this sort of internal simulation with code mimicking life. Yeah, we can start talking about how you can make these kind of things. Right now, you can drop shrimp with your mouse. I believe it's reactive, so that the fish can only swim in these areas. But that's about it. We can talk about that more later and how to implement these things. But yeah, let's take a break for yeah, so if you want, you can extract the practice one first, but you can extract both. We're gonna do the practice one first, because I think to look at the template right now is a little overwhelming. So I'm gonna break down what goes into making a base website and how to get it running. Why does it turn off my camera every time? Ah, but yeah, I guess a good question to ask is, does everyone have VS Code installed? And new file or new workspace? No. I think if I just close it entirely, oh, it just opens it. It's all good. But it's a fine. It's fine. It's not too hard to get there. Practice. All right. Does everyone has VS Code working? No one here. No one here had a problem getting installed. Talking to a brick wall. I swear. No, it's fine. So I'm assuming everyone is very tech savvy and they have no problems with it. Okay, perfect. So all you needed was GitHub Desktop and VS Code. So all you want to do now is go into File here and let's go to Open Folder. Go to that folder and I think it's FEWW25, F&E Workshop, Practice, and then let's select that folder and then it'll take you to this. And then what you're going to want to do is press index.html to open it. And so I have two screens open right now, but let me just close this. So this is what you should be looking at right here. In fact, I'll make it a little bit smaller just because this is how I actually use it. All right. Does everyone see the same thing as me? Yes, 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 yes. Okay, okay. Nice, nice, nice. I like the yeses. Thank you for the response. Real time. But yeah, so this is a very base project with almost nothing in it. So this is your basic HTML structure to get any website live. You just need some of these aspects. So this kind of stuff down here is a little extra. These scripts, you don't need these, but a link to a style sheet, some meta information, a title, a head and a body, and then this HTML tag is all stuff you need. So I would say for now, you don't need these. I mean, I just left them in because we'll probably want to use that for the AI stuff. But realistically, if you were to start from scratch, this is what it would look like. So let's just leave these in for now, just because I don't want to load them in later again. So this is a very base one where it just says practice in the upper left corner. So everyone has VS Code open. Nice. All right, so what you're going to want to do is get one extension. It's called Live Server. So if you click on this Tetris block here, it is the fifth option from the left. You're going to look up the extension and you're going to look up Live Server. And you're going to want to choose this purple one. Don't choose the Microsoft one. Choose this purple one. And it's really simple. I think once you install it, it just tells you, it'll say disable or uninstall, but you might have to restart it. But if not, it'll change by having this go live button on the up lower right corner right here. And so what you should see after getting an extension is this go live button in the lower right. Let me know if someone doesn't see that right now. All right, let me know if anyone has trouble installing the live server extension. And you can test it out right now by pressing go live. And what it'll do is on your default web browser, it'll open a tab, and you should see the word practice in the upper left corner in tiny, tiny words. Give me a yer if you got it. All right, nice. Looks like everyone is getting this. So no troubles, just getting it open. Nice. Open a folder or workspace. So it looks like you have live server, but let's now open that folder. So go to file in the upper left, and then let's go to open folder, and then find the folder that I posted on Teams. I think there's two, template and practice. You might have to extract them before you open them though, because they're zip folders. Yep, so this is kind of how you start using VS Code. It's similar to, I would say, like any other program, except folders are now your kind of work files. You're opening folders more so than anything, but you can just open individual text files too here. So as you can see, this HTML file is just one text file. If we open this, if I go to my file browser right now and I go to my practice, so as you can see, this is what it looks like in the folders. If I open this in my notepad, let's see, open with, choose another app, notepad. It'll actually just open it up as a text document. This is how I made my first websites actually. I would just make it all in notepad. I was in like sixth grade or something. Um, it was my pastor's husband who taught us. It was really random. But yeah, this is how you made websites back in the day, just with notepad without a text editor. And so this is just text at the end of the day. It's colored because of VS Code. And so once everyone has that working, Jimmy, is it all good? Okay, gotcha. Yeah, let me know if you have more trouble with that. But yeah, you can open new windows as well. So if you want to have one folder open while another one is open, I do this often to reference another project I did before and take code from that project. You can have another window of VS Code open. So it's pretty useful because it's pretty lightweight. You're just editing text really. Um, so it's not too heavy. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. Within the folder structure here, as you can see, there is styles. And so this structure of HTML, CSS. So there are three languages that we're gonna kind of cover today, and that is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now it sounds a little intimidating, but don't worry. HTML and CSS are not real coding, as CS majors say. They make fun of people that say it's coding, actually. It's kind of gatekeeper. Um, and JavaScript is kind of a jumbled mess. So don't worry, I don't also write it from scratch most of the time either. I have references from things I made previously, and then now with AI, I get a lot of AI assistance with JavaScript. So with a combination of basic HTML, CSS knowledge, you guys can make pretty robust things. So I'll go into right now. HTML is like a skeletal structure of your website. It's like the order, and you're just loading things in. So it's like more systems oriented than anything. So it's like, hey, this is the head. The head is where you preload things. So this is for scripts more likely than not, and styles and fonts. And so this is stuff you want to load before the actual website loads in. So stuff like the title. So the title is what is featured up here, FND workshop template. And then I want also this icon on this upper left right here to be shown before the website even loads. And then some preloaded scripts so that things load on time and yada, yada, yada. And so every kind of meta information that you want the website to have that's not actually seen in the website, it's in the head. Um, so there's certain types of things you want in the head and certain things you don't, and I'll show you them later when you kind of see the larger template. But everything else that you see on your website is going to be in the body. I'll take out Three.js and Orbit controls for now because I can add them later. If you want, you can just comment it out by pressing Control and question mark button or the slash, and that'll comment it out if you highlight it. And that way you're not using it. That's a good way to comment anything out in HTML and CSS so that you can just have it there and then you can uncomment it to use it again. And you can like troubleshoot things by taking things out. But yeah, I'll just comment it out for now just so it's not confusing for people. So for all sakes and purposes, the only thing that's in the body right now is this word practice. And you can see that represented right here in the upper left. Everyone is with me right now? Let's see. Can I get a yer if everyone is with me? Or a raise of a hand? I'll take anything, really. I'm desperate. Nice, nice. Okay, okay, okay. All right, all right, all right. Things are looking pretty good. And so the CSS is where you start. As you can see, it is unstyled. Everything is pushed into the upper left corner. CSS is now where you can add styles. That's why it's called style.css, styling to your HTML elements. And so it's done through classes, which I'll explain in a little bit. Right now, there is nothing added to this. It's just the word practice. How do I target the word practice? It's through classes in CSS. It's a bit long right now. It's because I added a bunch of preloaded stuff like my fonts. I have some fonts and images as well as some JavaScript scripts and some, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I have some preloaded things just so we can get some things to look nice initially and have images to play with so we can have us like sort of homogeneous set of images that we can all work off of so everything looks the same for all of us. But yeah, these are fonts I actually use in a lot of web projects. You have to pay for all of these except for Bookish, which is by Virgil Abloh, but I don't know the legality around that because he's dead. But yeah, I would say I just use these all the time as placeholders because they look nice. But these are sort of the base assets we'll be working with initially here. And so, yeah, that's kind of how you can think about it. The CSS uh, syntax is a little bit confusing at first, but I left some examples down here, as you can see. All of these green marks are comments. And everything below here, useful but hard to remember CSS structures, is all good examples of CSS structures I use all the time in every single project. So stuff like class, display flex, box sizing, filter drop shadows, translations, transform. So these are all kind of things you see already in like the programs you guys use. So um, I don't think this is all foreign knowledge. This is, oh, this should say pixel. Yeah, I think it's a little bit getting used to the syntax, but I think a little bit of playing around with it and you guys will kind of get used to it. Because you guys have used these parameters before in computer programs. both 2D and 3D. But for now, I'm setting it so that in the document, margin and padding is 0, and the background color is an off gray. Most people actually don't use white. So if you use white, it's pretty blinding, I gotta say. It's at night, it's pretty bad for users that don't like it. And so I set background color to gray for now. And then margin and padding is 0 specifically because if I don't have it, words come with margin and padding initially off the bat. Yeah, as you can see, it comes with margin and padding. And so I'll explain to you what margin and padding is later, but it just sets it so that base is 0 for everything. I think it's a good baseline just because you want to add your own margin and padding and everything. You don't want to use the system parameters because that's like for websites from like the 90s where they just kind of used H1 elements by themselves. So, all right, we're still at this screen, but is everyone with me? I feel like we're moving a little fast, maybe. All right. Thumbs up, Jimmy. Thank you. I'm going off of Jimmy. I think we're good. And so, all right, everyone has their website live. They have HTML. So CSS is not applied directly unless you link the CSS sheet, which I am doing here. I did it beforehand. And so style.css, which is in our CSS folder, I am now linking it in the head so that whatever style I put here, it applies to my index page. I know this is a little hard to imagine right now, but bear with me. We will be making our first item. So instead of practice, let's get rid of that. And everyone, let's type H1, or let's do this bracket, pointy bracket, H1, and then close pointy bracket. And as you can see, it finishes the syntax for you. It's really nice because writing all this kind of stuff is a nightmare. And so getting used to kind of like this uh, speed up that VS Code does by finishing off the syntax for you is pretty good advice, I would say. Something that's really nice about VS Code as well is that when you're typing stuff in like class, you can just type in CL and it'll probably know what you want most initially. So you can just press CL and you press enter. It'll type it in with the equal signs and parentheses. So let's type in H1 class equal sign parent or quotation with nothing inside of it for now. So this is a way that we can use to target something inside this document. So inside, after you guys have typed this out, I hope you guys have all of this. Let me just check the chat. Let me know if I'm going too fast, because this part does get a little bit technical. So let's type hello world. I am, and then type in name, whatever your name is. I am Eric. You can type in your name. Hello world, I am Eric. And it should update here with hello world and I am Eric. And as you can see, this text is a little bit bigger. It's because we told it it's an H1. And what this is HTML H1, H2, H3. I don't know what to call this exactly. H1 to H6 tag, yeah. So these tags are used for generalized word and text separations in terms of categories. So H1 is a heading, H2 is slightly smaller, H3 is slightly smaller, H4 is slightly smaller. So in terms of importance, you want H1 to be at the top. As you can see here, Beatles, external morphology. And so in terms of categories, it gets a bit more specific every time. And so they made it so that you usually want to separate information like this so that it's easy to categorize. And you can separate it so you can target it easier so that it's like, hey, this should be smaller than this. This should be slightly offset than this, and yada, yada, yada. And so right now it's slightly larger because H1 is the large one. And so it's saying, hey, H1, hello world, I am Eric. And so I want to now change this to be a cool font because I hate this font, honestly. It's so ugly. I'm just kidding. I'm so critical. Um, I think it's fine. So we'll give it a class. H1 class, and then so inside the parentheses, we'll give it a class. We'll do homepage text, HP text, HP/text, and then we'll press save. Control save. Oh yeah, to also update your website, you have to press Control Save, because what it does is just updates the text document, and it should be live on. And so right now, I just put the class HP text, but I'm not really adding anything to it. So there is the class, but there's nothing I'm like saying to do with the class. So in my styles now, I can go HP text dot HP text, which means dot means class. There's another syntax for not classes, which is a hashtag, which is for ID, but for most things it'll be dot. So for classes, it'll be dot. So HP text. And so what can I say is font family. I actually loaded a bunch of fonts in for us. I have 5 in here, or 6, and it looks like I loaded all 6 of them in. Graphic bold, bookish, and 3 replicas. So 3 versions of replica, 2 versions of graphic, and 1 bookish. 5 of them are sans serif, and the 1 serif font is bookish, if you guys know a bit of graphic design. We will use bookish because I think it looks pretty cool for now, just to see if it turns out. Or actually, it's sans serif right now, so we'll try replica. So to load this font family in, you don't actually have to type this font here. I loaded it in as this font family. So I'm saying, hey, for the font graphic bold.otf, I just want to type this in and I want you to replace that font. For this replica light OTF, this font file name is a little bit complex, so just shorten it to replica light. So I'll say for replica, replica light for font family. And so if you go here, oh wow, the font changed. So yeah, you can start styling it with classes here in the index. And so this is how you start styling the HTML elements. You're using your CSS. And so with here, we can do font size. And then we can do 200. Let's make it bigger. This should be huge. It's a little big, so let's do like 100. All right. You can now set this to color red. I personally like Dodger blue. So let's set this here. And so you can see the CSS changing, CSS effects changing take place now. Anyone have questions? How can you show how you go to the website to see it update live again? Okay, gotcha. So after you get this live server extension, which you can find by typing live server up here in the upper left, it's this purple one with this these rays coming out of it. After you get that, you might have to restart VS Code once, but if not, you'll find that there will be a go live button in the lower right here. This will be how you kind of see your website and the changes you make. And every time you press that go live button, index should open if you have it open on index. But yeah, let me know if you have that open or if you need me to go over that again. And as you can see though, we can see the changes now taking place on the HTML. So this is like general building blocks of web components. I know it's a little complex, but we'll make it simple. We'll make it simple. I'll show you my organization system that makes it really simple. For style, let me just add a bunch of spaces here so that, because these are all preloads, you don't really have to think about this stuff. Anything we add will be here. So I like to actually just add a bunch of indents because that doesn't take too much computing power, if at all. Are you good to go, Natalie? Oh, nice. Okay. Everyone is good to go with live server. That is amazing. And everyone has hello world, I am their name with styles working. And you guys can try whatever you want for color and size and yada, yada, yada. In fact, the more custom you make it, I think the better. So I have replica light in my font right now, right? So if you take out the light, it'll be regular replica. And so you can see the 3 fonts I have down here in the font face URL. So this is how you start loading fonts from your folder. I know the CSS syntax is a lot right now, but I've set it up for you guys already, so it's already set. All you need to do is take this font family and put it into here. Ooh. And there it becomes a lot more bold because it's the regular replica now. And I believe replica bold is like a weird one. I would recommend not using this. It's a weird font. I like replica light and regular. So yeah, everyone got styles working and changes. Nice. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so this is how everyone started making changes to like their MySpace page back in the day. And if you highlight the element, you can see the space that these words take up. And so right now, this is an H1 element. So I would say rule of thumb, you don't want to have floating H1 elements because this is just like saying, hey, this is a text source. I like to put my text sources always inside of a box, even if that same box size is the same size as this text source, just because it makes it semantically easier to read. And so let me show you an example of that right now. So a basic building block of the internet, which everyone uses because AI, the way they build websites right now, is using this building block, and it's really bad for SEO, is bad for disability, and there's a couple other reasons, but it's used for quickly building web code instead of not too hard to build. So this thing called a div. I forget what it means exactly, but I literally just call a divider in my mind. It's a division. So a div, it just means a placeholder empty. Think about it as an empty latent object in your 3D uh, within your 3D files or 3D programs. So divs, you can attach it to class and you can style divs. So right now it's nothing. So I can give it a class. So right now, let's take out this class HP text and let's give this class, oh, let's leave that here. And you can actually leave the class empty here and it's fine. Let's give this HP text class to this div here instead. And then we'll actually put this inside of the div. And as you can see, everything in HTML has a closing tag with a slash and the same thing. And it'll highlight each other to show what is the opening and closing, just so you can see what's inside of everything easily. I also like to give an indent right here, just so it's easy to see what's inside what. But that's just me personally. And so effectively, this should say the same exact thing. Nice. HP text, replica, font size 100. Let's go to maybe 50. Yeah. All right, nice. Even though I changed the class from H1 to div, this H1 is inside of the parent HP text. So it takes on the parent styling actually. This is important and it gets a little bit complex, but this is why I separate my files like this because it gets a little bit complex and this way you can read everything really easily. But that's pretty much it. You can add classes to divs and so HP text here. Right now, what I like to do is take HP text and add another CSS element, only targeting H1 elements inside of HP text. I know it's a little dank already, but bear with me. So this is targeting H1 elements inside HP text class elements. So child HP elements of the parent HP text. So I like to just put all of my font stuff in this instead. Because while I'm styling this div, I don't want to see font stuff because it starts to get really unwieldy in terms of the size of the CSS per block. And so what you can do now, just to see what the size of this div is, width, we can say, I want it to be 800 pixels. And height, let's make it a square. Let's make it 800 pixels, just so it's easy to see. And then just for testing purposes, this is for a lot of web stuff. People just put a really gaudy color just so you can look at it. All right, it's working. So the width of my div is 800 and the height is 800 and the background color is red. Now my text, separate to this, because it's the child H1 elements, it has these properties inside of it. Nice. Now, if I put any other text inside of this, like practice again, now notice this is not inside the H1 elements. This will not take on the styling of this. It'll just be unstyled. Whew, everything's working. Nice. All right. Anyone lost so far? All right, give it a second. I'll give it a second. Okay. Yeah, press insert. It happens all the time. Oh, okay, a good amount of questions. So yeah, my cursor changes from this to the thicker one, and it becomes really annoying because I'm like, oh, I can't like change it the way I want. So if you press insert, it goes back. Sometimes it's numlock, but most of the time it's insert. All right. I'm wondering, so by adding the class after the H1, Yeah, so H1 has embedded CSS, but that's like a legacy thing. It's really legacy because people used to just build websites with no CSS styling. Um, and so right now, I just separate it because I always separate my font related CSS from my size related CSS. I try to, because it gets a little bit unwieldy because this, when you have multiple child elements under this, you want to separate it out anyway. So let's just say I have an H2 element instead because it's smaller and I want it to have a different size. So for this, I'll do uh I am small and shy because it's smaller. So this H2 element now, if you look at it, it has no styling. And if I put this inside of here, it'll affect all of it, right? But I want this to be different sizes. And so what you can do is, because if you do this and you add redundancy, oh, so let's make copy and paste this and add an H2 version of this so that it's smaller, like 20 pixels. So I'm saying the H2 elements inside of this will be 20 instead of 50. And so as you can see, it's smaller, but there's a lot of redundancy if you have this. So you can just get rid of this and just style it only within these for the fonts and then keep the size separate. And it's really nice and just organized. And so as you can see, it's working nicely. So I think it's a good time for me to start introducing padding and margin. And so padding and margin are very often used terms in web design stuff because it is how you organize the grid very nicely and make everything look very nice. It's how most modern websites have like very nice just uh, offsets of text and organization. And so right now there is no space on the edges here, which is most websites don't want that. If they have a square like this, so let's take out the background for now. Let's actually call this white because our background is gray. You can see it easily. We can call this just a block, and most of the time we want a little bit of an offset. We call this padding. So we can do 25 pixels. Bam. And so this offsets this inside by 25. And now you'll get a little confused when the background isn't there. So if I take out the background color, it'll be offset and it's really nice. But effectively, the reason why I use this to show this as an example is because there's another term called margin that is often used interchangeably when it shouldn't be. And so if you use margin, it offsets the corner of the box. Whereas the padding is it offsets from inside the corner to the actual elements in the inside. And the logic here might be a little bit weird. But I think this does a good job explaining it. I have this sheet here. I believe it is Guide to Flexbox, W3 School. So anything with HTML you have a question on, you can look it up on W3 School. So you can do padding, margin, border, box model. So yeah, if you take a look at this box model, I think it explains it really nicely. Margin on the outside, border, padding, content on the inside. So if you look at it right here, this was before, we have margin, we have padding, and then we have the inside. And so this way, you don't get confused because if you don't have this white box, let's just say this is empty, and I only want the offset to be 25 pixels from this side because everything is 25 pixels, let's just say. Sometimes you might be like, oh, I just do margin 25 pixels. And it effectively looks the exact same thing as padding, but scalability gets really impacted because the larger you do this and the more interchangeable you use padding and margin, when you go back into it, you're gonna just have a nightmare changing parameters when you need to change one more thing. It's a little hard to explain right now, but if you do scale up your portfolio website, even a static portfolio website with like 5 pages, it starts getting pretty confusing. And so, yeah, you can start seeing here. Let's just do red again. This is where we're at. And then margin, we'll do 25 pixels again. And then for height, we'll change it to 400 because we don't need to be that tall. And as you can see, it's adaptively changing to whatever we do to the CSS. And so anything in HTML is just like, I want that element there. In styling and CSS is now, I want it to look this way and be in a certain area and do this thing and yada, yada, yada. So this is CSS is a lot of it. And the syntax, I recommend if you're confused to just take a look down here because they have a lot of examples, or I put a lot of examples and I commented it. And so yeah, I definitely recommend looking at it. But yeah, that is kind of the basics. Let's try and make another component. So HP text, if you duplicate this and you add it on top, as you can see, another one comes out, right? And so this is a way of reusing components. So if you build something, you can just reuse it again. So now I can change out the text. Hello, I am Tony. I am big and bold. Now, for this one, I'm like, man, this is not meant to be small. This is supposed to be bigger. You can actually add inline styles. I don't recommend this because it's a bad habit for now, but there are times where it's necessary, where you can be like, oh, I want this font size to be specifically 300 pixels. Like, I just want it to be giant. And inline styles will always take precedence over CSS. So or it'll always try to. And so, yeah, as you can see, you can override your style that way if you really need to troubleshoot stuff. But yeah, you can also add style or classes to H1, but I would recommend against it because you can target it with parent element H1 instead. And you can do that by adding a space afterwards. And we don't add a dot under H1 because it's a semantic HTML element. It's a little bit crazy, but HTML comes with very specific set of things that like everyone uses, like article, header, footer, stuff like head and body, which it kind of sounds like what it does, really. And so that is like the basics. Is anyone lost? Let's see here. So we basically redefining all the CSS of the legacy. So think about it. Uh, God, let me just show you actually. This is a motherfucking website. Yeah, so this is what people consider to be the best website. Pure HTML. It loads as fast as possible. It has instructions. It has hierarchy. It has differentiality in terms for types of information. And so this is what your page will look like with no CSS. So it's effectively just like a version of just like having everything, run top down, similar to code. And so CSS is just a way of styling it. Without it, that's what it looks like. And that's just kind of how you make websites look good, mostly with CSS. So yeah, I use CSS for this. A lot of like my index, I think I had to reload this. Oh, I turned off that. I think I turned this off too. I have to reload it. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for practice. You guys can add more elements here. Try adding more classes. Try making your own element. And so I think something cool I will show you guys is let's change the class of this one. So let's just say I have this card here, and let's actually duplicate this 2 more times. So it goes below the screen. And now as you can see, we can scroll down. And so these are loaded in procedurally, always trying to go to the left and upper left. That's kind of procedurally how it's done, similar to like a book in the Western sense. Everything's going to try and align. Word's going to start always in the upper left. And that's kind of like a graphic design thing where the 0, 0 is always just like quadrant wise. It's just, in the upper left. But there are other ways to get around that through CSS. So let me show you. So we have 4 HP text elements. And then let's make a new div and let's give it a class homepage icon. And then press Control Save. And now you're not going to be able to see anything because there's nothing inside of it. But let's just say we put the word practice inside. As you can see, it's in here. And it's being loaded procedurally so that it offsets the thing under it right here. But we don't want this to offset. We just want it to load in and have the other things load in procedurally. So using this class, HP icon, we can add HP icon, bam, and we can do position, and then we can do absolute, which is a bit more CSS, but I'll go into it. Right 0, and then we can do top 0. So this should be in the upper right. Bam. And so this position absolute is saying, no matter what is on the screen, just put me in this spot. And so right now it's at right and top 0. I can add get a bit of margin, so 25 pixels, and it'll offset from that corner. nicely. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the basics of web development. And so if you scroll down, it's always fixed to the upper right. There are other position-based things like fixed. You might see this in like a advertisement or like a cookie enabler where you have to click it, where it follows your screen. So this is a fixed element. So similar to like Trey's homepage element where it was like his name and description, this thing is fixed while everything scrolls. So that's kind of how you start differentiating positioning, so you can have things move while others don't. But I would recommend just testing it out, and then uh, I'm gonna use the restroom real quick, and then when I'm back, we'll go into the more complex template I have available now. So this template is a bit more complex, but uses the same structure as before and is built out with a more modern kind of sense of building a fuller website. So I'll go into this, but first I am going to use the restroom. But I recommend everyone just play around with the divs and make some things, add them in, test that it works, make them kooky colors, give it weird borders. But if you have any questions, I would definitely reference this stuff. In the styles, I added, in the practice one at least, not this one, I added a bunch of references for examples. So yeah, actually this one too, I added everywhere. So yeah, I'll be right back. All right. Hello, hello, hello. Is everyone ready to move on to the template now? If you are, just raise your hand or press R or type R, and then we can move on. I'll give it like 2 more minutes. Ooh, ooh, ooh. All right. I hope everyone got a good grasp of extremely basic web stuff in that practice template, and I recommend kind of just going through it and adding more stuff if you like. But I think honestly, editing the template would be better than the practice one if you do have a good grasp. Just trying to just use the practice one for actual just practice. If you're trying to make something actually sustainable, I would recommend using the template. But yeah, this is kind of how I started making my first project from scratch is with that practice template. Um, this is what I this is like my file structure I did in like undergraduate, I think, where everything's just set up into folders really neatly. I call my JavaScripts down below or in the head. But yeah, that's pretty much it. No one has any questions, and I'll go on forth. Thumbs up. All right, sounds good. Okay, so jumping in, we can now open folder and then open that template folder now. Now this is kind of the built out version. It's not very complex, I'd say. I made it so that it's really simple and easy to use. And a lot of the stuff is not even being initiated. I just have it in there for comfort and ease of access. But yeah, we can start with the index.html. Everyone here? Nice. And so what we can do is now press this button in the upper right, and we can open two at the same time. And this is nice because most of the time you're going to want to look at two sheets because as you can see, most things don't spread beyond like the half. It's like indented. And so what I can do is now bring in style sheets on the right. I think it's a good practice. Oh, this is a good practice to have is I use style sheets on the right and JavaScript on the right and then HTML on the left. It's just a good structure to have. I also recommend choosing a color scheme you guys like because switching is really hard. Like I cannot switch from this color scheme very easily. Like my eyes have adapted to this. So I know that white color text means I can actually edit it in HTML. So as you can see, nothing here is actually being shown in terms of text. If you go into my navigation, I'll open it here. I have index, about, and contact. So these are the actual text that's being shown on the website, and these are the things I would change. So everything else is syntax and semantic to make kind of this function as a component. And so I would say getting used to your color scheme is really important. But yeah, just choose one you like, honestly. Choose one you feel comfortable with. I used to use like Neon City before I used this one. And it's because I switched because my IDE that I was using, I think it was called Brackets. It got they stopped developing it. Yeah, it was this one. They stopped developing it, so I stopped using it. And I tried using Phoenix Code and it was terrible. And so yeah, I switched to this and I'm not looking back now. I haven't switched my theme. And so let's actually make this go live. So while on the index, I'm gonna press go live again. And this is gonna bring up the live version of this website. And as you can see, it's pretty built out compared to the practice one. There's actually stuff on here. I have widgets up here. I have a navigation. I have a homepage slide element. Is everyone working with this? Everyone has this up and running? Okay, nice. It's not too different on everyone's end. Okay, nice. Looking good. So this is not the most robust system, but I think it's great for building out pretty much anything you guys might need. So similar to before, I added a little comment because I think adding digital signatures is a pretty fun thing to do. It's like digital graffiti. But I added a little comment and we have the exact same semantics. HTML tags, a head. I'm loading a bit more things in, like more CSS sheets, which I'll explain later. I'm loading in some more libraries here. I'm loading in a Google font, which I'll show you guys how to do. And most importantly, I'm loading in my components here before I have my compartment loader here before I have my components in my body. And so let me explain the structure. In my index, I actually don't like writing all my code in here because what I realized is if I reuse this navigation and I have it for example on my project page, because I have a navigation on that page and every other page. So let's just say I go into my project and I have my navigation up here. Now, if I switch this button to not be indexed and for this button to say projects instead, I would have to edit this on every single page that it's on, which is annoying. So that's why we start making components. That's the idea of like modular reusable components. Now, the big thing in modern web dev is React. It's by Facebook, or by Meta, I suppose now, but it's a library for making web components. It is probably one of the biggest libraries everyone uses in web development. This is a little bit hard for a beginner, I would say. So that's why I split it up into a way you guys can manage so that it's only HTML, CSS for the parts, really. Nothing more. You just reuse this part loader. So this key script here, this part loader pretty much makes it so that you can use a one-liner and have it so that this script replaces this with a larger chunk. So within navigation, I want to say, hey, change this navigation ID to this HTML of navigation. Not that big, but when it goes to the archive menu, which you can now toggle open with this index button. Now this one is a bit larger, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I don't want to see all of this on my index every single time I open it. And also I don't want to change everything every single time I change it on one page. And so making components like this is nice because it's modular. And so every single time you have this archive menu div, this part loading, which I can show you right here. Let me open it up on the right, is saying, hey, replace archive menu with archive menu in the components. Replace the ID navigation with the navigation HTML in the components. So it's really easy. It's really reusable. All you do is copy and paste this if statement right here. If you see hashtag homepage slide, get the component homepage slide in HTML and put it into hashtag homepage slide. It's really all it's saying. And you can make modular components like that, similar to React. And it's very modern. It's very easy to upkeep. And all you have to do is change these components a little bit. And so it's similar to having like a WordPress document set up where it's like compartmentalized a little bit more. It's not the exact same. It's definitely a little bit more, I guess, technically savvy to do this, but It's really easy to upkeep, I'd say. So this widgets, it's pretty small, but when it gets combining all of these into one page, it starts getting unwieldy, especially in the projects page where I have even more text. As you can see, I'm still using this part loader here. And so if I were to break down what's happening here, I have a navigation, which is up here. I have the widgets, which is this updating information up here. I have the archive menu, which I toggle on and off by pressing index. I have a archive toggle script, which facilitates that, which don't worry, you guys don't have to write any of this. And I didn't either. This is AI. And so what it does is it toggles. I used to have a toggle script too, but this one seems to work really nicely. It doesn't really matter what toggle script I use. Um, I just didn't want to fish it out of my old project and retrofit it to this. It's kind of annoying. It saves time to actually use AI in certain circumstances. Um, and so, yeah, it's pretty easy to get this working. It's just a simple state management system. If it's on, turn it off. If it's off, turn it on. That's it. And so what it's doing is it's toggling on the archive menu. And so that's that. The only thing else on this homepage is the homepage slide, which is what I call the slideshow. It's this here. Now, this is the only thing that's a bit complex, but that's because I was trying to copy A24's website, and they have a pretty nice lazy load, blurry to not blurry method of doing this stuff, which I really liked. But I was like, man, I'll just get it working so that videos just work. But the idea is when you hover over a title, it goes over it. And the key thing here is that on mobile, videos don't autoplay um, compared to desktop. So you might have a video autoplaying working here, but then on mobile, it's just not going to work at all. It's going to have like this play sign, and oftentimes it's like uninteractable because you never meant for the video to be interactable anyways, right? You can't stop this one. And so what I did was I set this to an image sequence. This is just like 25 PNGs in a folder. And so it's just saying go through the PNGs in a folder similar to an animation. And that way you kind of override these things. And so it goes into image format and resolution a bit more. But I'm sure all of you guys know Photoshop already and image size and resolution. And so I think a little bit of a brush up on that and like just what kind of standardized sizes are best for certain things be best. But I have it set so that it works for both mobile. Um, it's different videos, I believe, for mobile and desktop. And so the mobile one is smaller and the desktop one is higher res. But yeah, it could be a little higher frame rate, but I just didn't want to re-render it. It looks pretty okay for this one though. But yeah, that's kind of like the core of how this system is set up. I have other scripts inside of here, but as you can see, I separate all the CSS documents and I link them because having everything on one style.css document is really hard to change because your CSS sheet becomes really long. And so I like to separate it out so it's easier to find so that, hey, it's like I want to change the navigation the way it looks. So I can just go to navigation.css and it's here. I can open it here while looking at this. So I save this, and then so let's just say I open navigation here, and it's like, oh, I can look at this while looking at this, and then see the changes happen in real time here. And so, yeah, that's kind of the system I have in place here for the template. I figured for you guys, you can change up the information as needed um, and specialize whenever you need to. I have the contact sheet working already. This part, you guys will need to set up your own API key, which I will show you. I think the contact sheet is in the about me. Yep. Oh no, it's the contact HTML. Whoops. So yeah, in the contact, we will change out this API key. And then also in the widgets, you'll see another API key, I believe. Oh, widgets.js. You'll see another API key here, which I would ask you guys to change because that's my API key and I get charged if too many people use it. But it's not a big deal. I think it's like 5 cents on the like per thousand people that go on or something. It's pretty absurd. But yeah, I link it to these things called API. So API, I forget what it stands for. Application programming interface. It's a way for applications to talk to websites or real-time stuff. Open weather, not open water. So Open Weather API is an institution that sells real-time weather information. You see these actually a lot of like this APIs are everywhere. Like companies that sell information really, real-time information. And so people that also do this are like OpenAI. They do APIs for ChatGPT. You can connect this to ChatGPT to get information directly from ChatGPT. People connect this to Spotify to get information from Spotify trends and stats. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm using one call or something like that. Um, or current weather data. I forget what I'm using, but I'm using the free one. And there's a bunch of these, but yeah, you can start signing up for API keys. And that way you can start signing up for real-time information that loads directly to your website. And so I have all of this set up here, and you can see this inside of this folder structure. And it's really easy to kind of just imagine how this works because it looks exactly how it looks here. Whereas if you build out a video game, it might look different from the file structure of the internal stuff. The website looks exactly like this. This is what people are getting when they download it. And so the structure right now is I have three projects. You can look here, and if you go into the website, there are pictures, or there's one picture, and then there's information that goes on here. This is all placeholder for now because this is more for me where I have a lot of text in my an exposition in my work where I kind of explain a lot. But you can kind of imagine yourself changing things out now. If you go into projects.css, you can change out the font, the size of these things individually, hell, even the spacing. But yeah, everything's kind of built out, so you can just kind of change things out slightly and change the font sizing, and you're good to go. On mobile, so I think something key to note is if you press Control Shift I, Developer Tools comes out. At least on Chrome. I think on Mac it's different. It's Control Apple I or something like that, or Control Apple L. But on Control Shift I, if you press it, you get Developer Tools. You have a console which I use for debugging. You can select elements to see what it is here. To be like, oh, what is this image in my files? And it'll show you exactly what it is and the CSS it has. But most importantly, you can also see mobile. If you press here, it switches from desktop to mobile here. So you can be like, oh, what does my website look like when it's a phone? And so you can change that by toggling it on and off right here. And you can mimic the same mobile functions. And so that's a good tool to have for debugging. And of course, my signature also spits out here, so it's kind of cute. I think yeah, if it's a little larger, it's nice. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of the structure of the website. I have fonts, I have base images. It's all separate into folders so that the only thing you see outside are the web pages on the website. Index for the homepage. Everyone has index as the homepage. That's kind of like the ubiquitous syntax that everyone has to have for it to load as the homepage on the internet. And so index stands for homepage, and everything else is kind of linked from these links. The HTML syntax for making a link is this A tag here, which you'll see later, but just by looking through my project, you'll probably get an idea of like this A tag. It's what everyone uses to link stuff. So if you press this button, take me to the contact page is what it's saying. So if I click the about button, take me to the about page. That's all it's doing really. You can give it more commands so it opens in a new tab if you want. But that's what it's all about. And so let me show you how I get my website live. And so that is my website. That is kind of how it works. If you really want, I can explain later maybe how the home page works slightly. It's going to take a while, but this is pretty much the gist of how a website functions. It's talking to itself with all this stuff, and it's talking to other stuff with APIs. Now, the contact sheet, I'll show you guys later too with that Web3 form. But yeah, that is generally just the structure of a website. It's not that complex. It's very manageable, I think. At least if you, maybe not off the bat, but if you build it from scratch and you use this structure, I think it's not too overwhelming. So how do I get my website live? I think this is a good thing for everyone to know, even though you might not use it a lot, just because it's so easy. So I use GitHub. And everyone here has a GitHub account. So let's try logging on right now and press or say ready if you're ready with your GitHub account logged in. Oh. Let me know if anyone has any trouble with this GitHub stuff. All right. I'm gonna assume everyone has a GitHub account. So what you're gonna do is go to the upper right after you have an account, right? Go to your repositories. Or actually, we can check one more thing before as well. Turn on GitHub Desktop and make sure you're also logged into this as well. Make sure your same account is logged into GitHub Desktop before you do this. So if you're logged into both, what you can now do is press new on this upper right here. It's this green button that says new right here. And make a new repository. For this one, we'll do FE Web Workshop 25, name it whatever you want. And then I'll do slash practice or I'll do slash um, class test. You can add a description, but the key thing is you have to actually leave it public. You have to pay for it to be private, so everyone can look at your website if they want to. And so all we're gonna do is add a repository name. I'm not gonna add a description. And we're gonna press create repository. And so you'll come to this screen here. So what you're gonna do is press setup in desktop. And if you press the setup in desktop, you'll get an icon or a window that says open GitHub desktop. You're gonna press open GitHub desktop, and what it'll do is open up GitHub desktop with the repository. Okay, you have to close it. Huh, 1 second. Oh my goodness, the first hiccup. The first hiccup. Wow. I'm not sure why this isn't working. Let me just reload. Hmm, 1 second. Wow, that icon is not even, dialog icon is not even coming out. Interesting. Let me just start again. Repository name 25, class test 2. Create repository, set up in desktop. Huh, this is this is a little troubling. All right, well, this is not procedural, so we can just do it on GitHub desktop. So if you're logged in to GitHub desktop, what you can do is actually new new repository or add local repository. I'm just gonna add a local repository because we have the folder made. So we're gonna press add local repository on GitHub desktop. If not, you can try the one where you press setup in desktop. I don't know why it's not working. Is there like a fourth dialog box that I'm not seeing? Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen this before, but you can do this on GitHub desktop. Let's see here if anyone else has trouble. Yeah, so that is what it's supposed to do. Yeah, that is what it's supposed to do, Casey. So you can just press clone and it'll make a repo on your desktop or wherever it is here. It's in Documents, GitHub. So you can choose your local path so that it's in a place that you like. Personally, I just put it in my base drive. I don't like putting in my documents because then it copies it to OneDrive because it's like this weird Microsoft system. So I personally like it in my like just regular base drive of my user. But yeah, if you press clone, it'll create a folder in that spot for you. And so for me, I'm gonna do new repository as well. Let's do FEWW25 class test 3. And then I'll also keep it in my base path, local path Eric users drive, and then I'll create a repository. Nice. And so if I go there now, I'll probably see if I go to class test 3, it's there. Nice. Let's make it a little larger so we can see. Class test 3, and it is empty. So what we're gonna do is take the files from either the practice or the template. I think it's funnier if we do practice because then we can tell what really changed. We're gonna copy up to this and not include the Git or the VS Code because this is related to the actual like to GitHub pages and this is related to VS Code. We're setting up a new repository, so we don't need all that. We're just taking our project files and we're gonna put them into the new repository we made called class test 3. We're just gonna copy and paste it here. As you can see, it already has our Git and Git attributes. You're just gonna leave those in there. And if you once you copy and paste your files into this new repository that you made, the changes will show up here, being like, oh, you made all these changes, you added all these things. And so is everyone there? Let's see. Yeah, is everyone there where you've made a repository, you've put your files into that folder, and then you see the changes in GitHub desktop here? Oh, nice. Okay, sweet. All right, so we're all we need to do is add a summary because you need to add a summary to everything. So we'll say initial commit, just say this is our first commit. And so after you type initial commit, press commit 21 files to main. Boom, we're committed. We're saying put this to the main, and we're gonna publish repository now. Right here, press this button up here now after you commit to main. So when you see that the changes have been published or committed, you press publish and you say publish repository onto GitHub for me, because I didn't do it from GitHub, I did it from this. So for you guys, it should be already published. So this thing shouldn't even come out. And so for me now, if I go to my repositories, if I wait 1 second, I should see class test 3. I see it. So this has been uploaded now to my GitHub. This folder is like pretty much identically uploaded to my account in this format with the exact thing, index.js, images, CSS. So this is the one that says, hello world, I am Eric, I am shy, or something like that. And so that way we can see if it's actually live. And so once you go to your GitHub, you should see now your first repository, you should have one. And is whatever you named it. Bam. And so I'm pretty sure that part is pretty easy, so I don't have to go through it again. Sometimes there's errors, but I think with this, it should be straightforward. So once you see this here, you're gonna now go to settings. If you press settings, there's gonna be inside this area called pages. This is what we're gonna use as our free service. Okay, I have to make the repository visible to public first. So this is what I mean by it has to be public visible to the public. They don't let you do free pages. So let me just go back. Oh, not collaborators. Advanced security. Where is this? It's general, sorry. And then let me just change visibility to public. So if it's private, you can just change it to public here like this. I have to use GitHub Mobile because they keep thinking I'm getting hacked. So I have to confirm my identity, but I think for you guys it might be fine. They'll just let it go through. Let's see here. 42 approve. All right. And so I have set my public or visibility to public. I'm not going back to pages here. And for you guys should all see this page. GitHub pages, deploy from branch, yada, yada, yada. We're going to set source to deploy from a branch instead of GitHub Actions. And we're going to set this branch to main, which is the only thing we have right now. We only have one version of our project, so we're just going to set it to that. And we're going to press save. Now that's all it takes to make your website go live. You take that folder, you turn it into a repository by uploading it into the same exact thing onto your GitHub account. You go to pages, you launch the main branch, and if you wait like a good 2 minutes, it's gonna build your website from scratch. So let's just wait. You have to wait like a good 2 minutes for it to build. But effectively, what we should see online is this website. And we're gonna test it by actually looking at it on our phones. Or I mean we can, but I think the alternative is we just look at it using the URL. And so we reload this page. As you can see, your site is live at ju/k@github.io. I don't have a URL, so it's using my GitHub pages URL, which is perfectly fine. But you can see it's everything that we did in the folder. Hello world, I'm Tony. Hello, I'm Eric. I'm practicing the upper right corner. So it's exactly as you ship it. Just if you build it right, it'll work. And so you can see the pages here. You can see the amount of deployments you have here as well. So the more deployments you have, you can see what changes you've made during each deployment. But yeah, that is pretty much really the easiest way to get your website live. Any web project. It's 1 GB max. So that's why I recommend doing a file structure where it's pretty clean. And so because it's 1 GB max, I know that I personally run into limits because I like to use images and videos in a lot of my projects. So what happens is you're gonna want to store your images not locally. So these images are kind of useful because they're kind of like ubiquitous to the site, like an icon or a logo or the or something that's small that's like in the footer that's like used all the time. I have these because the file size is small anyways. We just needed some files to work with. But you're gonna want to start hosting your files offline. And so the best way I've found out to do that right now, I used to use Dropbox. You can just use Dropbox. I have so many files on here, but what I realize works best right now is creating a new data set in Hugging Face. So Hugging Face is for AI mostly for models and stuff like that. Companies upload models onto here for Hugging Face. Think about it like a GitHub slash open repo for AI models, but it's a lot of stuff at this point. So what you can do is go into your account and look at your data sets if you make a new one. So I made some for this class already, and so if you look at FEWW25 media, you can see I put every single part of that animation video inside here because it's large. It's large. So all these files I think combine to I think 1 GB exactly which you don't really want. And so I have all these linked here, and you can copy download link by going in, and you can see anytime you put this link in here, it will replace wherever that photo is supposed to be with this photo. And so that's kind of how I start keeping things low memory in terms of size in of my files in my structure. I just host everything offline, really. When it comes to anything large, only the essentials are stored locally. And so yeah, getting your website live is super easy. I think playing around with GitHub pages, I have like 20 pages on here, like on my repos, and they just host it forever for free because no one really goes on anyways. And so yeah, it's a good way to just start testing your things. If you want to look, uh, I believe my website is live right now at ericju.com. And so a lot of people have questions of how do I now change my URL? Because I don't want it to be that GitHub URL. I like having my own thing. As you can see, it's working nicely. The same exact thing as we saw on the desktop. And so what you're going to want to do is go to a domain provider. So I use GoDaddy because I've been using it for so long, but everyone hates this website, and I understand why. They're kind of scammers. If your website ever starts picking up traffic, they will charge you like crazy. Um, but that's not a big deal for us. But I would recommend using Squarespace for now. Of your domain. Let's look up davidhyden.com. I think you already own it, but closest match, $14, dude. That's so worth it. Because finding your name is pretty hard, and sometimes it could be really expensive. I had to wait like 3 years until someone didn't buy my name for the URL, and then I had to snipe it off of their account. And so yeah, it's pretty cool. You can see just what's available out here. Like if you're interested in starting a company, you can look up what's available for fruit because it's all like I'm sure so much of it's taken. But yeah, there's some pretty interesting URLs like fruit.xyz or David h.xyz if you don't want to put your entire name, yada yada yada. But yeah, that's kind of how I would start sourcing your domain. And so within that, I can help you guys with this afterwards, but you have to change DNS settings. So if you go to my products, so these are my URLs I own for now on this account. So let's go to Eric Ju, my business, and then if we go to domain, I believe, yeah, you can look at DNS settings. You can see I'm paying $22 a year, so not bad. But there's a bunch of DNS settings you have to change for GitHub pages where it's not too bad actually. You have to change 4 settings and then add a CNAME, which I'll help you guys with that. Because there's security protocol to getting this approved and also enforcing HTTPS, which is security. If you don't have this, every time someone goes on your website, it'll be like, "Are you sure this website might have a hacker or it might have viruses?" Yada yada yada. So you kind of need this. But yeah, you guys will have to end up linking it anyways. But if you guys use Cargo, it's super easy. It just does it for you. So you don't have to worry about this. It's only for specified web projects, really. All right. So that is the gist of it mostly. If you want more hosting options, there's Cloudflare. So if your website ever gets too large or if you're ever doing a business related thing, you kind of want to use Cloudflare because GitHub is not meant for large traffic. But you can use Cloudflare for hosting. You can also use Cloudinary. I've seen this for videos now. And yeah, there's a bunch of these cloud-based options. You can use retro stuff like Dropbox as well. I don't know how retro it is actually, but yeah, there's a lot of these options you can kind of go to. It's not one size fits all. But yeah, using this template, you can really start making robust things, I would say. So that's kind of how I start setting it up. That's how my website is live. It's really easy to just take this, turn it into a repo, press go live, and you effectively have whatever it was I was working on before. Let's go back. Let's go to my repo. I think this is the latest version of the workshop. If you look, it is live right now. So if I take this link and I put it to my phone, it should turn on. And this is like the live link, so it's with loading speeds and everything. So, yep. that is pretty much it. You can test mobile as well. I have a responsive viewer so that I can look at both at the same time. And then if I press a button, it happens in both. Um, this is a Chrome extension, but there's a bunch of these Chrome extensions you can get for a little bit more easier web development access for certain things. But yeah, that's generally the structure. Um, if you guys need help getting a website live, just let me know. But it is relatively as simple as that. If you want to use complex web structures and modern frameworks like React, Node Project Manager, then you're gonna want some more stuff, but I'll talk to you then. But yeah, that's pretty much it. After this, I'm probably gonna do some vibe coding project. And so, uh, the example workflow I'll be showing is taking inspiration from a function here on this P5JS examples page. And so let me just explain what P5JS is. P5JS is an online library. It's made by the people that made processing, if you guys know what that is. Uh, it's not JS arts. Wow, open processing. Yep. So it's made by the people that made open processing, and it is a art coding art based thing that was made like a good 15 to 20 years ago now. It's been a while, but a lot of these works of art are now in museums. And so this kind of thing has grown to be accessible for web services. And so this they made everything that you can do on processing on the web using P5JS. Now I'm linking this in already up here where it says up here P5 min.js. So we can use anything in P5.js because I already have it linked. And so let's take inspiration from one of these and then let's try and really build out the function to make something cool. And so if you guys want to take a look, let's see here. There is RNG, there's a map, there's a rotate. Let's see here. Aim, sine and a cosine. There's a snake game. There's 3D. There's materials. Orbit control. Create graphics. Okay. There's snowflakes. So you can animate particles. Shake, ball, bounce. This is with a mobile device if you tilt it. There's connected particles, which I was trying to use for that node stuff for Yvonne. I don't think this ended up working. I have flocking. This is what I use for my fish demo. We have soft body, smoke particles, Mandelbrot. All right, so let's just choose one of these and then let's build it out. So let's see here. Animation with events, mobile device movement, drawing lines. Is there a rotate? Transformation rotate. I think there was one with eyes. Aim, rotate towards a point. Let's see. Split of the ring into triangles. Recursive tree, noise, Bezier. Anyone have a preference at all? Or should I just go for it? I guess I'll just go for it. All right, so let's take, hmm, this is gonna define the next hour or maybe. So let's see here. Let's make it good. Let's not do 3D, let's do 2D. And so with this idea of 2D objects, we can set it so that it just Bezier curves, but let's do connected particles. I think this is frankly pretty cool. So every time you hold down the mouse, it spawns a point. It also has velocity, so it kind of goes in the direction you're going, and then it clears the canvas, and it fades away after like a good 3, 4, 5 seconds. And then it seems to go through a series of colors. So I have this example. I was like, oh, I like this connected particles. What could I make with this? Let's just think. What does this look like? Okay, this looks kind of crazy like a web. I think having it as one line is kind of a bit boring. Could we maybe spawn multiple circles at once? And then that way we form some sort of net-like structure. Maybe these don't go away, and then we can form some sort of soft body physics with it. Let's try. So I think this initial part where you really think of what it'll be after you get inspired is it's doing the most creativity out of your end so that the AI doesn't have to be creative because it's not as good as that as you. So hello. So I am starting a new web project, and this is my index structure for now. And then so you show it the index structure that you have. I am trying to add a P5JS element that includes ex this something like this example from P5JS. You can actually have a lot of typos and it does not matter, but for the sake of this workshop, I'll try to type as well as possible. So you give it a link. I want to make use of this function or make use of this example. And I want to make it so that I spawn a crazier amount of points on click that are smaller in size and are varying in only black and white color. Actually, that's not a good way of saying it. It's only going to make it black and white. Smaller in size and are a range of grays from white to black. So a lot more points, smaller size for the points that are connected. These are all connected. Um, every single point to another, which might get a little crazy, with a white line, a thin white line. And then let's add the caveat of around 5 points should be spawned on click, and on hold, it updates and spawns. It updates every 24 FPS. All right, I think that's a good base where I gave it a good amount of instruction and a lot of direction that it can help me build this out. All right, let's read this rationale. I'll help you integrate a modified version of the P5 connected particles example into your web project. The modification will include spawning 5 smaller particles on click or on hold, ranging in particles of gray. And the canvas for the P5JS will be added to your index. So in my index, it'll tell me, this is where you add the canvas. So as you can see here, HP text, everything else is the same. I kind of recognize that this is the only thing that changed. You can just copy and paste everything they put in if you want. But if you recognize that that's all you need, then you can all just take this as well. So I'm just going to take this for now, add this canvas container. Now it's saying, hey, you have to actually initiate this using sketch.js up here before it starts. And so I put it up here and I make a new file in my JS folder called sketch.javascript. Sketch.js. And so it's blank right now. And so I'm going to take this sketch.js that they made and initiate it into here. So copy and paste. Now they have CSS for the canvas, but I'm just going to leave it alone because I think it might work off the bat. All right, so I have this element. It's behind everything right now. I don't want that. I want it to be in front of everything. So in fact, let's just get rid of hello world right now, just so we can troubleshoot it. And the moment we click, we should see, oh my goodness, it's working beautifully. Oh my goodness, I had a feeling it was going to go crazy. Um, but yeah, it's working off the bat. As you can see, you give it clear instructions, it makes whatever it tries to do. So at this point, it doesn't despawn. Um, and so you can be like, okay, so I also want it to despawn because it's lagging. So I want the points to despawn at around 5 seconds, and it transitions out with a fade in opacity. And so I'm like, okay, that was a pretty cool first attempt, but nothing is kind of going away. I wanted to regressively get smaller if I don't put points on, which is kind of how most interactions like this exist, right? And so we wait for it to update. It's real quick. I think it was just that. So if you go to sketch, yep. And voila. It should go away after 5 seconds with an opacity fade. Not perfect, but it's there. It is not perfect, but it's working. Nice. Okay, we're looking pretty good. Now, that's just an interaction we made in like 5 seconds. We can now think about it a bit more. What exactly does it mean to hold down the mouse button and make this? So like how do we want that interaction to work on the web, on our website? It's pretty broad, but right now we're just making like an art application that looks cool. So let's just make something that looks cool. So the idea is I have these white lines. I think I like how much noise they have, but it's a little bit crazy. So can we connect these in a different way? Um, let's see here. Let's give it a different command. Can we Uh, it's also good to affirm when something is working, so that it kind of knows that it's going in the right direction when it is. It is working nicely. Can we make it so that it is only connecting to each other when they are a certain distance to each other? I'm thinking like 200 pixels distance. So I only want the lines to connect. I only want the points to connect when they are within 200 points of each other. So a line shouldn't connect when the point is from here and here. And so that difference should be made here. If it doesn't, we can troubleshoot it. So all we're doing right now is just changing up the JavaScript sheet that we're initiating here in sketch.js. So all we have to do is just copy and paste this in every time. Nice. It looks like it's working perfectly. So surprising. And we've effectively made a cool particle system that interacts with things that are near it. All right, nice. So it's a bit hard to tell what the effect is until you go up onto it. So let's see if we can make something idle that exists into the scene that spawns points. All right, it's working nicely. Let's make a glowing circle sphere that spits out points randomly. So that when I idle, it's still going, and when I want, I can interact with it. So every single thing that's interactable is happening in this JavaScript sheet, and it's done a good job so that it's actually nothing that's like mismanaged. There's nothing that's styled on the JavaScript that shouldn't be. And so this is a good way of just troubleshooting because all you have to do is copy and paste this. And there's nothing else you have to do. So let's do that. Okay, nice. There's the orb that spits out circles. It's a little static. Can we have the orb moving around uh, with soft body physics? So around this scene randomly. And can we make it emit more particles, like 4 times the particles right now? Nice, it's interacting together, and frame rate's not dropping drastically. It's looking good. All right, we can always go back and forth. Now that this is done, we copy and paste, and is it moving? Oh, what? All right, first bug. Okay, it's moving erratically, but it's random like that. It should be a constant and movement, not erratic. Think like this soft body example in P5.js. So going back, I remember I saw this soft body that I liked. I was like, oh, this looks nice. And it goes towards the mouse. I just don't want it to come. Let's make it so it doesn't go towards the mouse though, and it's moving randomly. And let's make it emit even more particles. Oh my dankness. Wow, that looks pretty cool. Looking like Touch Designer. All right, less erratic movements. All right, not enough movement now, but it's fine. I think it's better than nothing. Okay, okay, okay. So this is a 2D element. That's something we got to realize. This canvas is 2D. It may seem 3D because there's volumetric fall off sometimes with this kind of stuff, but it's a flat element. That's why even I said a sphere, they try to just make a glowing 2D element. They tried their best. So another thing where I thought of was like, can you make this maybe rotate around like a sun, like a planet, give it some gravity? But I think it's not going to do too well in the 2D realm, so I'm gonna skip that one. Instead, let's make more of these agents. So the idea is this spawns points. All right. All right. Can we make another sphere or glowing sphere? Sphere that is glowing black energy, and it chases the glowing white sphere while emitting dark particles and dark lines. Can we make it so that the background color is a dark gray so we can tell the difference? Let's see if this works. So I think it's a bit broad and vague to say emit dark lines because the background is black. But I think it knows what I'm talking about when I say because the background is gray, I'm trying to offset it. So the idea is a similar thing we're doing with the white lines, we're doing with black lines, and we're gonna have a shape that chases the white one. And so it'll feel like white lines overlapping with black lines as it chases it naturally. Let's see. Okay, not the worst. Um, okay, it's working nicely. Let's have the white sphere move faster, and let's make it so when a white point and a black point uh, create a line, they create glowing RGB, uh, glowing RGB lights instead of not. Instead, we'll just leave it there. So if it's just white lines, it'll make white lines. If it's just black lines, but if they're close to each other, it'll start making disco lines. It's the idea. Hopefully the white moves faster. Right now, it seems like they're so close to each other. But yeah, these are kind of things you can play with, make observations and then you just make changes from those to be like, oh, I think the experience would be a little bit more enhanced with this. Let's see here. Thankfully, everything's working off the bat. Oh, first time? Okay. It's looking it's looking beautiful. All right, we're grooving. All right, so far so good. Any questions from anyone watching the AI section of this? Um, yeah, it's pretty built out. Anyone have requests for what I should try next? Anyone have any ideas? Please, I recommend or I urge you to say anything that you think would be cool to try out. Oh, you can. And in fact, VS Code has Copilot. Can you go back and show how you added it to the practice file again? Yeah, I can do that really quick. But yeah, I can show you options for that instead too. So in my index for my practice page, the AI spat out instructions on how to update it here. So I gave it context. So this is my index. This is my project that I'm trying to add. Yada yada yada. So it'll spit out two things: how to update your index and how to update that JavaScript page to make that thing work. Because you want to separate it from your index so that you can just kind of copy and paste. So what you do is in the index, if you go to code here instead of preview, it tells you the code. And within here, I added the sketch.js, which I made a file of in my JS files. And then I also added canvas container to my index because this is how the P5 is initiated to the canvas container. If you look at the sketch, it'll say at the top, append this to canvas container. Yep. And so yeah, attach it to container. And so that's kind of it. Can we try drawing the walls for the fish tank? Going back. Can we turn the shake ball one into popcorn popping? Yeah, okay. So popcorn popping. I think that's an interesting idea, right? So we got these disco balls. Um, so how about this? Instead, we'll make the interaction so that so shake would be cool, but I think adding a shake function to the screen might be a little interesting. I haven't tried it yet. Off the top of my head, it might not work. I'm not quite sure, but I'm trying to think here. What would be a good shake option? Hmm. Let's see here. So if I go here and I ask it, all right, I think it's cool, but I want to try something else. And we make it so I can grab the white sphere and shake it with my mouse. And if I do, points fall out of it like uh, glowing yellow popcorn from the top and drops down as popcorn would if you shook the bucket violently. Which is a super specific like imagery, but I don't know how the AI kind of reads this and understands it, but it seems to do a pretty good job. So at least usually, um, can we make it? All right, I think it's cool. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, so nice. I think it might have some trouble because I have two mouse down commands. I have one where if I hold mouse down, it does the lines, and then if I hold, it might also shake the popcorn while making lines, which makes it a pretty laggy experience. But yeah, I think it should be fine. We'll try it out. All right. Already done. Oh, nope, not done. Let's go back. And so if I grab it, wow, you can make popcorn fall out. And it doesn't do the lines. Oh my goodness. It is lagging my computer. And you can still do the lines. Wow. Okay, so you got rid of the colored lines. I think I have to add that still. But yeah, instant popcorn. I think you can make it pop really if you wanted. Add some heat function, but like you add like a heated floor down here, and if it hits it like a frying pan, and then it like gets hotter, and then it pops, turns into a white popcorn. It's definitely doable, but at what cost? It might take like 10 more prompts. So yeah, I think it's looking pretty good. Let's go back to this one. I think this one was pretty procedural off the bat. You can kind of leave it alone, and it works. Let's see here. What is one more thing? Um, let's make it so the white sphere runs away from the black sphere, and the black sphere chases the white sphere. And let's go back to this working version without the popcorn. So if I do version control where I want to go back and I'm like, oh wow, it's gonna try and do this popcorn thing over and over. You can say, hey, I want to go back before the popcorn, and you give it context. So I went Control Z and I went back a couple of times. So you can see it's back to this format. And I can go back and now I can just tell it, hey, this is the working format. Get rid of that, put this other function in, and it understands that rationale good enough. Because you're giving it examples, because you're giving a structure, it just all it has to do is find the viable JavaScript structure and put it in there, which there's so many examples of this online. All right, something cool would be like UI. So if you had interactable buttons so that you can add one more sphere, change the color, make it so that maybe the points are Beziers. Oh, let's try that next, actually. That might be cool. Beziers will make it 3 times more complex, so we'll turn it down. Let's see here. Let's see if this works. So we try this out, and now they're chasing each other. Okay, so this is what I had for the fish, and this is not working the best. This is crazy. It tends to be a little recursive on itself, I see. All right, let's go back and take off the chase. It's not working very well. Let's just have the white sphere bounce around instead of getting stuck in the corners. And let's also make it so it's connected by Bezier curves instead of lines. And I'm sure that computing, adds to the stress on the system. So let's reduce the particle emission slightly and make it so less particles spawn on click. All right, that should fix it. So yeah, cubic Beziers have 3 more numbers than lines, I believe. Um, I think actually no, 4 more if I remember correctly. 4 digits because it requires two per because XY. Um, and so yeah, you know that it's gonna have to calculate more things, so you kind of turn it down just to test it. If not, you can just test it off the bat. But most of the time, it's pretty utilitarian. You're testing for like the worst possible scenario. Because if it doesn't work on mobile, it's kind of a tragedy. All right. Yeah, I recommend starting a new chat if you're doing a new project as well. Do a new chat for every new web project you do because it tries to keep the context of what you did before, and sometimes it does not help, and it really does help to start over sometimes. All right, now it's cubic Béziers. The lines aren't straight anymore. It's connected by curved lines. Wow, not bad, and it's not too laggy actually. It's a little jittery. It's looking a little crazy. Um, but yeah, overall, looking like, oh wow. It's looking like a cool interaction. All right. Let's actually leave some time so that you guys can try. I would say look at something on the P5JS examples. It's gonna do the exact same thing where it makes a sketch, and then you have to start by adding it into your index, and then also adding a container, and then you just update your sketch .js document with whatever it gives you. Now the context is we're using P5JS, so I would recommend testing it out. But yeah, it's as simple as adding like 6 prompts and you get to this spot, which would have taken me like literally 3 weeks before. Um, it's really sad how much time I wasted before this AI stuff, but yeah, it's helped me a lot in making cool demos really quickly. And I urge you guys to try it out because this is a pretty robust way to make cool things, but also make functional things for your portfolio. Adding tags so that if you press a tag, it only opens up projects of that tag. I think that's really hard to do unless you know how to do it. And so AI kind of helps you kind of make these things easier. So yeah, I would definitely emphasize practice and just testing it out. But does anyone have any questions or are we good to go? Everyone else left in the chat.